and this building attracts more tourists every year than the whole city of Oslo. Now we are going to continue in the cultural area, and to make a building beside the opera must be quite a challenge. But Einar Hagem he's a partner in the architect company Lund Hagem. You got the challenge to produce a library beside the library maker's opera. Yes, please tell us about it.
Thank you for that I can come here. It's a big pleasure. And as you have seen, we Norwegians are we are maybe not so urban. We like the mountains all the best. We try to make mountains in the city, and we love that. I really love the Opera House. When we had the opportunity to design the new library next to the opera, we were asking ourselves at the office, since we are also working a lot with out in the landscape with small scale projects, what could we learn from this? What could we learn from the landscape that we are so fond of? The office, our office is also in Oslo. We are now we are almost 50 architects, 4 partners, and we have worked a lot with these small places out in the fjord landscape. Back in 1903, actually, we did the summer house for the royal family, and the king and the queen of Norway. They're actually here in Istanbul now. And now they live in this castle in Oslo, the end of the main road, and what they really needed a retreat that had much more closer to nature, something totally different from what they live in the rest of the year. So this is the summer house. Small place, small, intimate, nature-like outer rooms. Trying to get inside, outside, and use the landscape. The contrast between the landscape and the house is kind of the most important thing here. Also, if you go close, another small project closer to the sea, where you have the horizontal roof, the contrasting to the undulating landscape, and on the back side of this summer house, making the house also kind of like a screen against the nature. So you protect from wind, and you get the evening sun, that still have the view through your house to the more wild nature. Or this another small house, more small hilly topography. How to connect the topography here, or making the roof more like the landscape. Here is the roof concrete, made of concrete, and folded to make it strong, and also to connect to the landscape in a different way. Yes, you see here how the roof works in the landscape, and how the between inside and outside is trying blurred out. And the second theme, which is very important in this small-scale housing, is vegetation. How to build within vegetation. Can the trees, instead of turning them down, can they kind of decide where to build? This is a small sculpture museum, and this is a small house where actually the design guide for us was to keep all the trees and build just between them and very close. And how could these images, could we learn something from it, building a new big culture house in the city? Oslo city, as you have seen, is also much about fjord and vegetation. It's the fjord and the hilly hills around with a lot of vegetation. It's not as spectacular as Istanbul at all. It has some of the same elements, I think. And then we really got to this job placing the new library next to the beautiful opera house. Of course, this library we think it should be a kind of a lamp in the city, a small contrast to the marble opera house, a more light facades, more transparent. But we should also try and get away from competing with the lines of the opera. So going from this more like competition volume, now we work more with maybe a little bit like the tree, that is the leaves, the big part, the largest part of the tree is on the top. You see it here next to the opera. And the plaza in front, which is very much a part of this library. The librarians want to use this square as an outdoor library in the summer. And of course, this was a great opportunity for us to build this library, and we were really scared when we was invited into this competition with all these fantastic colleagues, Toito and David Schipperfield, and in fact also my friends here at Snøhetta and Arlab. This time we won. It's not always like that, but we were extremely happy when we made through here, and we did a lot of work with a lot of models trying to find out what is the possible solution for this special site. And what we found out about the library and the interior of the library should really connect to the street outside. When you walk along the library, you should have a view up to the different levels of the library, the 5 main floors, and vice versa. When you're inside the library, you should have the possibility to see where you are and see what's outside the library. And making these 3 diagonal views through the building, all the levels also became different. These light shafts made each floor a new geometry, and when they meet, it's kind of an inner atrium. So in the competition, we also made a model of the inner light shafts, where these horizontal lines representing the floors. And maybe also these light shafts kind of transformed the inner volume a little bit towards being under the tree, we hope. The top roof of this library is made around 3 cores, where you have all the vertical circulation and the infrastructure. And around these cores, the roof is folded concrete to make it strong, so we could cantilever part of the volume above the main plaza, and also cantering them all the way around from the columns. You see the columns more inside the building. And the folded slab, the folded roof is seen from all levels in the library. and the facade is made as transparent as possible in the ground floor to invite everybody in, trying to make a kind of a new plaza inside of this ground floor, coming in from the main plaza, but also from the streets. 3 entrances all meeting in this inner court, which really should be hopefully a new plaza where you get information about what's going on in the city, what's going on in the world, what's going on in the library. And you can pass through and just maybe you get curious about what's happening. And all the different levels have different themes, trying to get people curious about the different things they wonder about. Here you see one of the light shafts going through. You see the opera and the fjord. You see the inner facade, trying to make it as almost like a continuous daylight facade, even if 50% of it is closed, insulated. It's kind of blurred and with inner and outer glass, trying to make this continuous atmosphere of outdoor. And the skylights, bringing light into a quite deep building. And the main, or probably the most attractive space out in the cantilever above the main plaza, where you have the best view out the fjord, and should be a very calm place to study. The thinking of the library, sound-wise, is that it should be more and more quiet the upper you go, and more like studying on the top and more gathering at the bottom. And hopefully we manage to have some recognition of a landscape and trees within this library. Thank you.